evening, Sunday evening. Welcome to the Coach Gibbs Defense Lab. I'm here with a great friend, probably been got at least over 10 years. We still look good for our age, less gray hair, I think, than a lot of guys our age. But Coach Eric Kasperowicz, coach is that new head coach at North Hills High School in PA. Coach, obviously appreciate you coming on. We talk every year during spring football, and when you come down for spring break about trying to get together, and we're going to make it happen next year. We just talked about that off camera, but why don't you, for guys that may know all about you, a little bit about you, nothing about you, kind of give us your background and how you got to this point, taking this new head coaching job.
Yeah, no, appreciate you having me on, PJ. Always a pleasure, and how time flies, man. I remember, 10 years ago we were hanging out and coaching some all-star games together. So appreciate you having me on. But yeah, been a high school football coach for, I think it's 26 years now. I spent 1 year at the collegiate level, 27 years as a high school teacher as well here in Pittsburgh. Born and raised Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, North Hills High School. Went on to the University of Pittsburgh. I was recruited as a quarterback, ended up playing defensive back, played my 4 years. I was a 4-year letterman there. And then just like most of us, when the playing days kind of end, we wanted to somehow stick with football and had the decision to, I wanted to be a coach at that time. It was, you go the high school or college route, and I had such a tremendous high school experience. Played under a legendary high school coach, Jack McCurry. This is the early 90s, 1993, graduated 94, so 93 football season. Got a phys ed degree, and I got hired right out of college, right out of Pitt, and decided to go the high school route. I was an assistant coach under Coach McCurry for 10 years at North Hills High School, my alma mater. And then 2011, I took my first head job at Pine Richland High School, and right up the road, 10 miles up the road, and we had some great success there. I guess kind of going back, I was always played on both sides of the ball. I played quarterback in high school, also played safety. When I went to Pitt, I was recruited as a quarterback, and then kind of got switched to defense because in 1994 there was really no such thing as a 6-foot quarterback. Drew Brees, I think, was the first one to kind of break that barrier. But nonetheless, I played on both sides. So coming into coaching, I started out on offense. When I took my first head job, I was an offensive guy. We won some games, won some championships at Pine Richland, and then ended up coming back to the defensive side. I've been on defense for the past 12 years now. Pine Richland was there till 2020. Left to go to the University of Pittsburgh. I was an offensive analyst. I was lucky enough to coach Kenny Pickett in the quarterback room. We won an ACC title that year. Spent that year there. The following year, I had the opportunity to come back to high school to coach my son. So that was something that, a lot of people ask me, well, why would you leave Pitt? I think it was just an opportunity to be able to coach your kid. It was, something I couldn't pass up. And went back, took the head job at Mars High School, which was, again, right up the road. Did that for 4 years. He just graduated. He's playing football at Division III John Carroll in Cleveland. And I had the opportunity to go back to my alma mater, North Hills High School, where I started, where it all began, and it's where I teach at still. So I decided to make the move, and that's where I'm at. We're 2 months in, just starting up spring ball. We had 2 spring practices already. We got 4 left coming up here next week, and yeah, excited to try to get this program back to where it belongs. It was a program back in the late 80s, won the mythical national championship. This is 1987, a little bit before me. And then when I played, we won a state title, and we actually finished 3 in the USA Today national poll. So North Hills is a great history. Fell on hard times, though. Since 2010, when I left as an assistant to take a head job, that was actually the last playoff game that we've won. So we definitely have some big shoes to fill. We got to kind of get that program back. So looking forward to the opportunity and to get back to where it all began.
So, Coach, I mean, obviously, coaching at your alma mater, I know, when I got out of college, I went right to coach and student teach at Manasquan, for my high school head coach, and got to be with all my guys that coached me, and what an awesome feeling that is, right, to be back, walking the same halls as a player. So what are some of the things that you when you obviously took the job, right off the bat, what are some of the things that you're trying to instill back into the program to kind of get it back to the level that you want it to be?
Yeah, great question. I think North Hills has always prided itself on tradition because they had such great teams back in the late 80s, early 90s, and even beginning of the 2000s. and always just kind of held strong on tradition. But eventually that tradition kind of kept going down, 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 down. So at the point now, it's a total rebuild, PJ. They still have tradition. It's still, even the past, my 10 years when I was at Pine Richland, even at Mars, we would play them and we beat them, but it was always a tough out. It wasn't a, a cakewalk by any means, because this kid played hard. They always played with that passion. So the number one thing we have to change when we get back is just that culture of, when you're rebuilding any program, it's starting over and trying to implement that family atmosphere, getting kids to play for each other instead of themselves. And I think that's the hardest thing, but that's where we're starting. The pride's there, the toughness is there. It's just kind of getting them to kind of play together.
So do you look at, like, obviously you come in, you see the roster, you have kids that are there, maybe some incoming, like, freshmen that are coming in. So like, how do you develop leadership within your locker room, especially like with, looking at the older players to help, develop the younger players and molding them into that, the team. And again, I don't want to say like when you played, but the standard, right?
Yep.
So like, how do you like have a leadership council? Kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, that's our motto is be the standard, right? Be the standard every day, whatever that is, in the classroom, in the community, on the field, all that stuff. No, I'm a big believer in just kind of doing the little things right day to day, PJ, just kind of showing up and working hard and stacking days on days on days on days. There's no magic formula. Hey, we don't come in saying we're going to come and win a state championship. We're going to come in and we're going to win the day. And that's, get stronger in the weight room, 5 pounds heavier there, and, working in the classroom, on the football field. And I think the more you do that, it's like a snowball. You start to build momentum and good things just start happening. Not going to guarantee wins or losses by any means, but in my 27 years of coaching high school football, that's usually the recipe, just doing things right, and the wins follow. And if they don't, well, you can still look yourself in the mirror and be proud of what you did. But to answer the second part of your question, yeah, we do have a leadership council, kind of what everybody does. I try to get a group of 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, kind of an equal group, 2 kids from each. They write essays to kind of get into that. And then once we have that, that's kind of my voice, to the team. And it's also kind of my inside look of the locker room as well when us coaches aren't around. So that's something we implement. And then we also do something. And again, I stole this from, I think it was Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern way back 10, 12 years ago. They do a point system. So we've always done a point system, even since probably 2015 at Pine Richland, where every workout we do, every lift, every competition, grades, volunteer hours, supporting other teams. I have a whole kind of sheet of everything that we do, and kids build up points. So that's a way to kind of, recognize a lot of players on the team. It's a way for kids to kind of show some leadership from that end, show some buy-in. And this is the key, it's not always your best players, right? So it's kids that might not be the most talented, but they're in it for the right reasons.
So, you talked about obviously the steps you're taking, to kind of build it the way you want it. Yet you got to have good people around these kids, right? So, did you when you got the job, was it something where you interviewed current staff? Were you allowed to bring in your guys from Mars? And if so, if you're going to bring somebody from the outside, like, is it interview process? To kind of walk us through that. Again, taking over your alma mater.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, number one rule, and I say this at every banquet I talk to, you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. So, all the success that we've had over the years is because I had a great staff around me. So yeah, when I came in, it was almost a full clean sweep. We needed to change a culture. And I'm proud to say that I think I have a total staff, volunteers included, 9 through 12, we're 13 or 14 guys. I think 11 of the 13 are previous guys that were on my staff at Pine Richland, at Mars, or played for me at either North Hills or one of those 3 stops. So my staff is made up of people that I've been with, have been around me, I've coached. And the 2 guys I actually kept on staff are both current teachers in the school. One was on the previous staff, the other guy wasn't. So, and that's important too. And that's something, at least up here in the Northeast where I'm from, I'd say it's upwards of 60%, probably more like 70. Head coaches do not teach in the building they coach at. All right. And it's just because of someone might get fired or someone takes a new job or whatever. They're just not going to give you a, $120,000 teaching job to come coach football there. Whereas down in the South, it seems to be the norm. So as the turnover happens, most schools, they might have a guy that's in the building, but then he retires or he left or he went here or he got fired or whatever happened. The new guy they bring in, they ain't going to give a job to him necessarily. That's like the very, very rare. So I'm lucky that I was actually in the building that I'm at now. But my previous 2 stops, I was traveling every day, heading back home and going to my new school. And so, yeah.
So, yeah. And the thing is, like, I know, like, I was 14 years in New Jersey. I taught at the same high school and I had a couple different stops. And it was like the same thing as you. I was, tenured at the high school I was at, and you're bopping around, doing what you do. Down here in Florida, it's you're on a yearly contract. The tenure track stopped at 2015, so now everybody's on a yearly contract.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you were grandfathered in. So if you started teaching before July 1, 2015, you were grandfathered into the tenure. If you were after July 1, 2015, you were on that yearly contract. So, it's something where, you know how it is. Like, you do your job the right way, like,
Sure.
everything's good. Like, just, make sure you do that. Philosophically, Coach, what can people expect to see about? I'm going to get, obviously, you and I wrote, even though you played quarterback, you're one of the best defensive guys in the country. What can we expect to see in North Hills from a standpoint philosophically on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, so offensively, we're going to be, pretty wide open, pretty spread. We've always been a no huddle, up tempo spread team, make you defend the entire field. But football's cyclical, right? Back in the 2014 to 2018, we were as Baylor, as spread as you can be, right? And then probably the past 5 or 6 years, it seems to be adding another tight end on the field, right? And up to about now, fast forward, we still have the same principles, still have an RPO-based passing game. We'll run a little bit of gap scheme, power counter, a little bit of zone scheme, inside, outside zone, right, depending on the year and who we got. 2 or 3 concepts in the passing game, and then we're really, really, really good in the screen game. We pride ourselves on that. But at the end of the day, offense, defense, special teams, simplicity, right? It is what the kids can do, and it doesn't matter what I know, it's what they know. And so keeping it simple and using tempo to our advantage, not necessarily going fast all the time, right? Just being able to change the tempo up, I think is important. But being physical, got to be able to block on the perimeter, take shots when we need to, and, give the keys to the quarterback, right? You always talk about, especially as coaches, having that pen last. And if you can, build a system, offensively or defensively, build a system that you have all the answers, or at least have that pen last, and I think you setting yourself up for success.
So talking about defense, Coach, I mean, I know, like, you built up a defensive reputation over the last 10, 15 years. You guys are always known as being disciplined and physical defensively. So what are some of the core principles that you would say, like, are instilled in the system? You talked about your system, right? Because I know, just you and I have talked for years and years and years. Like, so what are some of those core principles that are installed in your defensive system?
Number one is stop the run, right? We're gonna get lined up and we're gonna stop the run. Number 2, we're gonna fly to the football, and number 3, we're gonna be pricks when we get there. I mean, that's what we talk about, right? I mean, if you can do those things, and at the high school level and in being a public school, you can't recruit. We get kids who we get. So some years you're gonna have some better kids, some you're not as good, and you got to make it work. But we're gonna be able to get lined up. We're gonna play a physical brand of football. And then those years when you get the better athletes and you can do a little bit more, but we're going to be basic. We're going to be a hard out. I mean, people are going to know what we're in possibly, but you still got to beat us. And I think that's the beautiful thing about defense. You can do a lot of things. You can have 85 different blitz patterns. You can have 4 different blitz patterns. You can line up in 8 different fronts, or just 1 or 2 fronts, right? And you can play great defense. So it's, in my mind, it's just trying to keep it simple and, not beat yourself, right? Being able to have enough stuff within our scheme that we can present a problem, or at least a different look to the offense. Because so much of the offensive game now is called from the booth, or, signaled down to the quarterback, and he's making those decisions. So if I can kind of make that 18-year-old quarterback or that 16-year-old quarterback confuse him, right, by showing him something different or moving post snap, I think that all benefits us as a defense.
I couldn't agree more. That picture presentation, and then once the ball snapped, it's game on. right?
Yeah.
So like you're talking about you had the first couple of practices. So like, what do you prioritize first when you're kind of building out your defense?
Yeah. So I'm kind of from an offensive standpoint. I think we do a lot on defense that offenses do. I try to do a 3-day install, PJ. So I get the entire defense in 3 days. I try to front load everything. And it's just in my mind as a teacher, I feel that if I can present everything in 3 days, the entire defense for the most part, obviously some tags and stuff down the road you can always add, but we're going to do it all in 3 days. And then we're going to repeat that process for probably 8 times throughout the summer. So 3-day install, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we're going to do it again Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and we'll do that the entire summer, right? So we get the entire defense in, and then as we go, and you're doing some 7-on-7s, you can kind of tweak some things, move some things, add some things to see what you're better at, right? Because teams are different every year. Some years, I mean, I love blitzing the cornerback in high school football. Hashes are so wide, right? Close to the quarterback, easy to get there. Past 2 years, I didn't have a great corner to blitz, so it was almost kind of wasting my time. This year I got some quicker corners that it's going to be pretty effective, right? So things like that, we have in our system, we installed it, but that might be something that kind of gets on the back burner as we get going.
So getting into like talking about like game planning and game prep and stuff, like so what role does film study and football IQ play in your guys? And it doesn't have to be the kids now. It could be Pine Richland, could be at Mars, could be your first time in North Hills. What role does film study and football IQ play in that development process?
Yeah, really try to take pride in our preparation, right? I mean, as teachers, I think the best coaches are the best teachers, so we try to teach it, and that's what we've been doing football school up here in the Northeast. Weather's just starting to break, so we've only been outside twice, but we do football school for 8 weeks. Now that's we get in the weight room, and then, like I said, that 3-day install, that's our football school. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and we'll just kind of repeat that process. And we'll get into some basics because we have our middle school kids coming up, so we teach them just basics of football, right? But that's all stuff we can teach in the classroom, and then we can actually put it on the whiteboard. Then we go into the gym and possibly walk through it, or get out on the field and walk through it, right? And then once spring ball starts, all right, guys, you saw it, you walk through it. Now we're on the field. Probably going to do a lot more walk through there, and then we can get out and rep it. So big believer in kind of, whole part, teaching it coming together, and kind of building it up that way. Because, again, it looks great on a board, but if the kids can't go out there and do it, that it doesn't really help you much.
No, I agree. No. So because obviously like offense is always evolving, right? We talk, you and I were talking off camera about like the early 90s and I formation and but power, maybe a little speed option, things like that. With the offenses evolving, we getting a lot of more RPOs, things like that. So how do you stay ahead from a defensive perspective with the evolvement of the offense?
Yeah, that's the tough part. I mean, I think the beautiful thing today is it's all out there now. There's no secrets, right? It's all out there. If you want to find it, it's out there with Twitter and the internet and podcasts and YouTube channels like you got. I mean, there's a lot of great coaches sharing information, and that's the beautiful thing about our sport. The guys are so willing to share it. But I think it all comes back to on defense is, again, just being prepared, doing what you do and doing it well. And then ultimately having answers, right? So I don't know if you ever can kind of stay ahead, but you're a three safety guy, right? I'm a middle of the field open quarters guy. They're both great. 4 downs, great. 3 downs, great. The 3-3 stack, I'm sure, is tremendous. I just don't know how to fix it, right? So I think defenses, they're all good. It's just what can you fix? So to your question, offenses continuing to evolve with 2 or 3 tight ends, at least up where we're at. That's all the rage, the spread RPO game, all that stuff. But within my system, I know how to fix it. If I ran something else, I wouldn't know how to. So I guess it comes back to just kind of staying within your wheelhouse and what you can do well and being able to fix things. Because as these offenses are continuing to throw things at you, you got to know how to fix it on the fly. So
are you a big now, do you guys play Friday night, Saturday?
Friday night.
So are you a big you look at something by Wednesday, if it's not working, you're like, listen, it's gotta go.
Probably by Tuesday, but yes, without a doubt. Yeah. Monday's usually a base day.
Okay.
Right? Tuesdays usually are run stoppers, whether that's some run pressures, looking at getting on film our different pressures and our movements, our stunts versus what they're doing. Wednesday is more of a pass, third down day, but by then, that's coverage stuff. That's a little easier, but it's the run stuff that I kind of put most time into. And if it's not working, then we'll scrap it and, go with what we got. But yeah, we do a lot of film study, with our kids. I think I forgot to mention this earlier, but generally speaking, we have a scout, and again, PJ too, and it's easy to say this and talk about it, but we got to understand these are high school kids, 14 to 18 years old. Their attention span is maybe 20 to 30 minutes, right? So every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we watch film as a unit, right? So whether that's an offensive or defensive unit, or even DBs, DBs, D backs, and D line, or front seven, back four, whatever the breakdown is. So Monday is usually as a group, so as a defense and an offense. Tuesdays we'll split up. It'll be a defensive day, and that's where we'll break up into kind of positions or at least units. And then Wednesday will be an offensive day. So we try to catch 30 minutes now at my new place, because we get out of school so early. That's going to be before, so we'll be able to get a lift in. We'll be able to get a 30-minute film study in. And that could be PJ too. Monday's usually of the opponent, but then we're filming with the drone Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so then we can actually watch the previous day's practice as well. Now we're sending it out to them on huddle, and we're crossing our fingers that they're going to watch it. But are they really watching it the way we want them to? Probably not.
Yep.
So
yep. No doubt. What are some of your, I guess, you mentioned the corner pressures. For coaches that I know, there's a couple guys hit me up on social media about the podcast tonight, and they have some questions like, what are some of your favorite run pressures and favorite pass pressures that you've had success with?
Yeah, so I'm again simple. I'm like, from an offense perspective, how many times do you need to be able to run up the middle, off tackle, into the perimeter. On defense, how many blitzes do you need? Now, I know one of your good friends, Don Brown, the legendary Don Brown. I was able to spend time with him in probably 2018 for like 6 hours, me and two other coaches, and he must have drew up 95 different blitz patterns. I mean, I was like, holy moly, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of blew my mind. But end of the day, we love America's own blitz. I love AA gap pressures. I love certain things versus certain schemes. Like, I love to bring pressure on the backside of a gap scheme, right? Because you're coming against those blocks. I love to blitz the running back on pass plays, right? Get them to the man side. I'm really, really getting into, and we've been dabbling. We've been doing a lot of these simulated pressures. We started back in 2018, but again, it kind of comes and goes. But Indiana made them famous again, bringing the simulated, or the kind of the replacement pressures, the creeper pressures, where you're bringing that unknown rusher. So you're only bringing four guys and whatever you want to play behind it. Cover two or Tampa or 3 deep, 3 under, whatever it is. Some of that, but then even so, PJ, some of these pick pressures, right, where you're bringing a guy through, you're picking and kind of looping that way. So really trying to find the sweet spot of, I call it cheap pressure. Finding a way to bring cheap pressure where I'm not having to bring 6 dudes and play zero coverage. I want to be able to bring 4 and get pressure on the quarterback or a free runner and still play whatever, to me, our best coverage is, whether that's Tampa, stubby to the trips, cover 3, whatever it is, doesn't matter. So
yeah, I think I did an all-season study on Indiana, and actually Coach Haynes was one of the speakers for the Matty Strong Clinic, and man, let me tell you, it was like eye-opening stuff, man. Like, just listening to him and what they did, and I'm with you too. Like, I very much love that simulated world of whether it's showing 5, 6, or 7 free, and to your point prior too about that picture presentation of the quarterback, right? Like, even if you're only bringing 3 or 4, but to have them see 7 up, yep, right? It's like, listen, we could be bringing all 7, maybe not, but and I really 6 years ago really fell in love with trap coverage. Really fell in love with it. I think it's something that it just been like you said, it's something that our kids can do, right? So that's why I kind of have rolled with it for the last 6 years.
What now, Dawn? Don Brown, he had a big, what was it called, city coverage or something.
Yeah. So city is if you get the Y off, he's going to make it look too high and just post it's cover one based off of where that Y goes.
And they're gonna.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
So like we run a few pressures out of city.
Right.
But yeah, it's like I said, I'm in agrees with you 100%, man. Like the kids understand it, and we watch film after practice, and I'm like, okay, we really get this.
Yeah.
Like then we just kind of, like you said, stack it and build upon it. Like not too much, but we want to just kind of just keep building that package up because the kids understand where they fit in the run and what they're doing in the past.
I love some trap too, and that's again kind of back to we're simple as you can be, but I want to give my kids those 2 or 3 things in their toolbox, right?
Yep.
That you go to. So for instance, we're quarters. Everybody knows we're quarters.
Yep.
But if you give me a pro into the boundary, balls on the hash, tight end wing into the boundary, or tight end flank into the boundary, one of the mechanisms we could check cloud over there and play some, cut coverage into the boundary there. And I didn't make the call. And now all of a sudden we're quarter, half, and we're in a good shape. So our kids understand, well, hey, we can go to this or this based on this. And they have the ability to do that because it's split field coverage, and we can kind of take part of each side how we want to.
So do you guys see, is it like a hodgepodge of that? Like, and I've talked to a couple other coaches a week ago, but like, what McVay made really, really popular in against the Bears, right? That like 3 tight ends. So are you guys in PA? Is it like, hey, I'm going to get like 2 weeks in a row of 13, and then I might get 3 weeks in a row of spread RPO, and then like maybe it's funny because I talk to guys down here in Florida all the time. They're like flex bone, wing T, this, that, the other thing. I'm like, guys, that was like four weeks of my life, coaching in the Northeast. So is that kind of how it goes on your guys' schedule?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think the rarest is 10 personnel anymore. Okay. I mean, we might see maybe one team that we won't see any that's all 10. We'll see one that dabbles in 10, but it's mostly probably say third, 10, 11, mostly 11. I'd say a third, 12, 13.
Yeah.
And I say a third, kind of what you said. We have a flex bone, we have a wing T, probably 2 wing Ts. Yeah, so it's tough. It's difficult, it really is.
So we're getting ready for our spring game, and I had a defensive staff meeting at 2:00 today. And we got 2 game films from them last year, and they're like 10, 11, 22, and then they're flex bone. And I'm like, all right, guys, well, listen, we got to – I said the flex bone stuff – I mean, you know how it is. Like, we're not defending ghosts, right? So, like, I'm just like, we're just going to show the kids how I know to, because I know the scout team's going to be a complete disaster.
Yeah.
Trying to run that stuff. So let's just get lined up to it. Hey, they motion orbit, they motion across. This is how we're adjusting. You guys understand? Good. Let's move on, because we just don't see it down here. It's just like I had a single wing team in my district for 2 years when I was at Golden Gate, and it was a nightmare. Yep. It was an absolute nightmare, because it was that like the old no spinner. Thank the Lord, no spinner. But it was like a nightmare getting ready. We're not using the ball, guys. Like, just make sure you get in your gaps.
There's no better feeling as a defense coordinator than when you wake up on a Saturday morning, for us, because everybody plays Friday up here, and you already had the 2 games done previous, so I had a good idea. But then when you put that 3rd game in your scout film, and you see it's like 80%, whatever, 10 personnel or 11 personnel, you're like, thank God. And it's not, you don't have to defend the whole world. It's like one formation. Oh, you could just, so.
It's good stuff, Coach. So what advice would you give, could be any coach around the country who's going to listen to this, somebody that is trying, like maybe a young head coach, right? Somebody that is just, either applied for a job, got it. Like you said, a head coach retired. He was a coordinator. They gave it to him. What advice would you give a young coach trying to build the program the right way?
A couple things. I think number one, you got to be yourself, right? We all see coaches we look up to, and maybe envy or try to, make ourselves similar to that because they had success. But you got to be yourself, or kids will see right through it. I think that's critically important. I think number 2 is, again, be true to yourself and who you are, and when I first started, I thought it was all about X's and O's, and the more and more I do this, it's more about relationships. It's really like anything in life, man. You gotta sell out to the kids, and they gotta understand that you care about them, more than just as a player, right? It's a transformational relationship, not a transactional, right? We're not just, hey, come play for me, go score touchdowns. No, it's got to be hence to my comment way back about changing the culture at North Hills is bringing them together as a family. So the more and more I've done this, the less and less X's and O's, the less and less, hey, we got to be on the field, where it's more team building. It's more just things together, eating together, meals together, doing things outside of football together. And the more you do that, the harder the kids are going to play for you. And yeah, all right, maybe you missed that last 12 minutes of practice and running those plays, but we spent time, and I learned about Bobby and his family life at home and the brother that he has that I never knew about, right? So it's all about relationships, and when they understand you care about them, special things can happen.
I agree, and like I said, I know, my kids are a little bit younger, yours, but I got 14 and 12-year-old. Just having them around, see that, and this from when you coached me, your son was younger, like to have your kids around the team so they see you outside of the coach role, right? They see you as a dad, yeah. Right? And they can see you, how you interact with your kids, and the kids are running around practice, water bottles, throwing the ball and stuff like that. Like, I think that's invaluable because and we said this, when we were working together for the U.S. national team, man. At some point for these guys, football is going to be right. So it's like, how can we just make them better people going out in the world once they get done playing, they get their degree, or they go into business on themselves. Like that's what it's all about. One of the things I'm most proud of, I have a group text with a bunch of Manasquan kids I coached from 2010 to 2013. And we all just these guys are getting married now, they're having kids. And coach, I remember when, Peyton was in a stroller on the sideline, for a playoff game, yeah. That to me is the best. So coming into this new deal, and obviously you're trying to get things back. How do you get your players to embrace your coaching style, the accountability, the toughness that I know you're bringing to the table every day?
I'm not really trying to get them to embrace anything. I'm just going to go in and I'm going to be who I am, right? And it's going to be someone that cares about the kids, and I'm going to show up every single day the same way. It's going to be fair. It's going to be demanding. Yeah. Are we going to get into their ass a little bit? Yeah. But we're going to love them up, and they're going to understand we care about them. And like you said, we want the best of each one of them, and that's going to be different. Some kids are really talented, some aren't, but we want to get the best out of each one of them. Because ultimately, let's face it, the game's going to end, for most of them sooner rather than later. So we can get them to kind of come out and play as hard as they can, but understand that football teaches them so many life lessons, right? And it puts you in, situations that are uncomfortable, and where you're being coached hard, and how do you react to adversity, and when things are going tough, are you going to quit? And fast forward 15 years, you're going to have a family, and you might have lost your job, and now you got to figure it out and go get food on the table for them. So lessons that are being taught in this game are, unparalleled to any other sport.
Couldn't agree more, Coach. So what are something that you're the most proud of when it comes to players that you've coached after they've left your program?
Kind of like what you said about the group text. The biggest compliment, the greatest joy I get is when kids come back, right? They come back, they want to see you, they reach out to you, they come back on the sidelines for games, you get invited to weddings, right? I got, like I said earlier, half my staff is kids that I used to coach, right? That played for me. And again, everybody, you're not going to be, if everybody likes you, well, you should probably go and sell an ice cream or something, right? Everybody's not going to like you. But, if you're true to who you are, and you coach them hard, they're going to see that. And whether that's as an 18-year-old when they graduate, or it's 25 when they're a grown man with 3 kids, they're going to understand that you cared about them, and respect you for how that went. But yeah, that's the greatest compliment, when people come back and they want to be with you and want to see you, and they enjoy their time that they had with you.
I like that 100%. What's so now I was looking at stuff online today and yesterday. Was there a ruling that is for as far as playoffs now with you guys, public and private, or split in PA?
It's close. It's going to get passed here, I think, here next month. But to be honest, if it's going to pass, I don't think it's going to go into effect because we just signed not signed, but every 2 years we have a new cycle, right? School size, so it's a 2-year cycle everyone. So schools go up and down. So my guess is it wouldn't take place until 2029. Okay. But it needs to happen. It does. I mean, I've been in a public school my entire career. It's not fair, and I say this out loud here to all the media. It's not fair. I mean, kids, they recruit and kids go to where they want to be, and it's not a fair playing field. I've won the two state championships we won. We beat 2 private schools, right? That the one private school, St. Joe's Prep, we're 1-3 versus them, and they're pretty darn good. I mean, they can recruit. And I remember we lost to St. Joe's Prep. This is 2014. We lost 49-42 to St. Joe's Prep out of Jersey. And all of a sudden, fast forward that next year, I think it was DeAndre Swift. In his media guide, where did he play at? He played at Georgia, I believe. His media guide, it didn't even say Pennsylvania, PJ. It says so-and-so New Jersey, right? Half the guys on the roster from Jersey, from New York, from Maryland, and they're playing for a Pennsylvania state title. Now, I'm okay if they're playing other, private schools. Great. And I'll play them in a regular season, but for a championship, it just doesn't seem fair, right? To me, if not, open up enrollment. And that, at least in our state, it's not like that. I know some states are, right? But
yep,
it's not that way here. So
yeah, no, I mean, again, like when I was in New Jersey, they had the separation of the the public and the private, and they had talked about it a little bit here down in Florida, because now we have it's back to 2 years ago they separated. It was suburban and the city. So it was all the Miami teams would play each other and not be on the west coast of Florida. Then they got rid of that after a year, actually. But the problem with our structure is there's not a lot of lower level, like we're a 1A school, but there's not a lot of bigger 5, 6, 7A privates.
Yep.
So that's where our disparity comes in. But I'm with you. Like I've always been coaching in public school for 23 years, been being in private the last 3. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Like I think it should be separated, and the guys that are heads of these states need to figure it out. Like that's why you are where you are, right? It's like you as a head football coach, me as a defensive coordinator. It's like, coach, this problem, figure it out, right? So we gotta figure it out.
Yeah, and again, I'll play. I mean, they can still play. You can keep your rivals, but when it comes time for the championship, then just break off. It's no big deal. I mean,
yep. No,
we'll see what happens.
I couldn't agree with you more. So, Coach, last one for me. I know I'm not gonna spoil this one because we talked about it before we got on, but interesting fact that some coaches may not know about you from 1993.
You want me to say?
I want you to say it.
So yeah, like I said, and again, back to my point about being a no head coach. If I would give any advice, this is probably the second thing would be coach on both sides of the ball, right? Yep. I was lucky enough to play on both sides of the ball. And then when I kind of got up there, I became so much better of a coach. At least I have that knowledge on both sides. So like when you go to clinics, if you're an offensive guy, go spend time on the defensive side. Learn what the pressure is, learn what the movements are going to be, etc. But anyway, 1993 quarterback coming out. We didn't have the internet, right? So the parade magazine was like the All-American. Were you All-American, right? So they have 10 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, X number of receivers, and you can still Google this. But and this is always my kind of go-to joke at all the clinics I speak at. But yeah, myself and Peyton Manning were 2 of the 10 parade All-American quarterbacks, and as I go on to say, that's where our similarities end, because our paths kind of went that way after that. But no, it was a good claim to fame. But yeah, ultimately my height kind of kept me from the quarterback. 2 weeks into at University of Pittsburgh, I was switching to the defensive side of the ball. So I missed that spread offense window, I think, by about 4 or 5 years. I think Drew Brees came out in, I think it was 99 or 98. When did you graduate high school, Coach?
97.
So I think he was 98 or 99, maybe. He went to Purdue, maybe 97.
I think so.
they started spreading it around, and yeah, so I missed that window.
It was funny. I was talking with Marcus Hagens. He's at Michigan now. And I said to Marcus did one for the clinic too, and I said, how would you have been like in this day and age? Because he was quarterback at Virginia, a shorter guy, right?
Sure, yeah.
And he was like, Coach, I would have killed him. He's like, I said, I absolutely would have killed it. He said, running the ball, and he went back to a play like I'm sure you could think back to a play like your senior year in high school. He was like, hey, we ran. It was almost kind of like, he's like, it was almost like kind of like a power read before power read, and he's like, I saw the A gap open up wide. I put my, I think he was against Florida State. He said, he's like, I put my foot in the ground. I ran it for like 60 yards, and he's like, I never even thought about, hey, let's do that again, because it was so out of the realm of schematics that they were used to doing. So, is there any play you could think back to? Playing quarterback that like you look at as a defensive guy now, right? You look today and you're like, man, like if I would have had that when I was taking a snap, like it would have been different.
Power read was a great one because I was a dual threat. I mean, I threw for like 3,000 yards, ran for 1,000. I think all the RPO stuff would have been tremendous because I don't know, my entire high school career, we saw basically cover 3 or man-to-man. And then all of a sudden we got into the state playoffs and I saw a team with 2 high. I was, what is that? We never saw cover 2. I mean, at least up here. But I'll tell you something else. One of our big plays, PJ, and I don't know if anybody that runs it, we were under center. We were shotgun and under center. We were probably 50-50. But I used to be under center. I would run quarterback trap. I'm talking trap the 3 technique. So kind of step back or do a little spins, like fake the fullback, and then A-gap trap with the quarterback. I don't know if you see that down south, but that was a successful play for us.
Yeah, we like you said, last time I remember seeing quarterback trap, I think I was in college playing at St. Peter's and we ran quarterback trap back in 98, 99. But Coach, listen, man, great catching up with you, dude. I'm so excited to see what North Hills is going to do. Listen, we're gonna get to Clearwater. We're gonna get on that fishing boat, at some point in the next year, brother. But listen, continue success. I wish your son the best, man. We've followed him the last 2 years. I hope he just keeps grinding. I know he will, and enjoy the college experience. But thank you so much, and best of luck, and best of the family. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate it, PJ. Thank you, man. I appreciate all you're doing for the game.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, buddy. See you soon.